The hospital bracelet was still tight around my wrist when I turned into her street. White plastic biting my skin, a small reminder that my own body had just been inside fluorescent light and sterile air. I told myself I was only stopping by for a quick check-in. Her driveway was empty. The house looked ordinary. Too ordinary. I rang the bell. My son-in-law opened the door just enough to block the hallway behind him. His smile was practiced. "Careful. She's not home," he said smoothly. "She went to meet friends. You should call first next time." I felt that faint internal tug, the one mothers learn to recognize long before they have proof. My name is Eleanor Brooks. I'm 56, recently discharged, and still trying to remember how to breathe without thinking about it. My daughter is my oldest child, my anchor, the reason I drove straight here instead of straight home. I opened my mouth to reply, and then I heard it. A child scream. Sharp, trembling, unmistakable. "Grandma, don't believe him. Dad is lying." My granddaughter burst into the hallway, hair messy, eyes wide, clinging to the doorframe like it was the only solid thing left in her world. My son-in-law went still. Too still. And in that frozen second, I understood something chilling. I hadn't just come to visit. I had walked into a truth that was already waiting for me. The air in the doorway shifted instantly, from polite tension to something sharp and dangerous. My son-in-law moved first, not toward his daughter, but toward me. "She's upset," he said quickly. "Kids exaggerate. You know that." I didn't look at him. I looked at my granddaughter. Her small hands were shaking. Her breathing came in shallow bursts like she'd been holding it for a long time. "Come here," I said softly. She crossed the threshold in one breath and wrapped herself around my waist. Her body trembled against mine. That told me more than any words ever could. Behind us, he cleared his throat. "You're making this worse," he muttered. I turned slowly, still holding her. "If this is nothing, you won't mind if I step inside." His jaw tightened. For a moment, he blocked the door. Then, reluctantly, he stepped aside. The house looked normal. Couch, photos, toys on the floor. But something felt wrong. Too quiet. Too arranged. Like a stage after the actors had scattered. "Where is my daughter?" I asked again. He hesitated. Just a fraction of a second, but enough. Before he could answer, my granddaughter tugged at my sleeve and whispered, voice cracking, "Grandma, she didn't leave." My chest tightened. And in that moment, standing in their hallway with my heart pounding in my ears, I knew one painful truth. This was no misunderstanding. It was a lie I could no longer ignore. I felt my pulse in my throat. I guided my granddaughter toward the living room couch and sat beside her, keeping my arm around her like a steady rope. She pressed herself into me, as if distance from her father might keep her safe. Behind us, my son-in-law hovered in the hallway, too close, too tense. "Where is she?" I asked again, slower this time, each word deliberate. He folded his arms, then unfolded them. "She went out," he repeated, but the confidence was gone. "You're scaring the child." My granddaughter shook her head against my side. "No, Grandma," she whispered. He told her to stay in the room. The words landed like glass breaking. I stood up carefully, still holding her hand. My body felt older in that moment, heavier, steadier, unwilling to retreat. I walked down the hallway. Every step echoed too loudly. Doors stood closed like secrets, lined up in a row. I stopped at the bedroom door my daughter used to sleep behind when she was little. It was shut. I turned the handle. Locked. Behind me, my son-in-law's breath changed, sharper, quicker. "Don't," he said suddenly. That single word told me everything. And in that heartbeat, I realized this was no longer about truth. It was about what I was willing to do to reach my child. My hand trembled on the doorknob, but I didn't step back. "Move away from me," I said calmly, even though my heart was hammering so hard I could hear it in my ears. My granddaughter tightened her grip on my sleeve, eyes fixed on the locked door. My son-in-law tried again, softer this time, almost pleading. "You're making a scene. She's fine." I didn't believe a single word. I reached for my phone and dialed my daughter's number. It rang once,
Twice.
3 times, then went straight to voicemail. The silence on the line felt heavier than any scream. Behind me, I heard him take a step closer. I turned, blocking him with my body. "I am not leaving this house without my daughter," I said. "Not today." My granddaughter whispered, "Grandma, please." Her voice cracked in two. I pressed my ear against the door. At first, nothing. Then a faint sound. A movement. A breath too shallow to be normal. My chest tightened. I stepped back, looked directly at him, and spoke slowly so there could be no misunderstanding. "Either you open this door right now, or I will." The house fell into a dreadful silence. And in that stillness, I realized something terrifying and final. Whatever was behind that door would change everything. He didn't move. Not at first. His face drained of color, then flushed, then went strangely blank, like a man deciding whether to confess or double down. My granddaughter pressed herself harder against me, her small fingers digging into my sleeve. I stepped back, raised my phone, and called emergency services on speaker. My voice was steady even when my hands were not. "I'm at my daughter's house. Her husband is blocking a locked bedroom. A child says her mother is inside and in danger." The dispatcher asked calm questions. I answered everyone clearly. Address. Names. What I had heard. What I had seen. My son-in-law finally broke. "Don't do this," he hissed, dropping his polite mask. "You'll ruin everything." I looked at him without flinching. "You already did." Behind the door, there was movement again, clearer this time. A muffled sound. My daughter's voice, weak, calling my name. My chest burned. I stepped closer, not away. "I'm here," I said loudly. "Stay with me." Footsteps approached outside, sirens distant but unmistakable. The house no longer felt private. It felt exposed, fragile, real. My granddaughter lifted her face to me, tears streaking silently. "You came," she whispered. I pulled her close, eyes never leaving the door. Because in that moment, I understood one unshakable truth. Being a mother doesn't end when your child grows up. It only changes how fiercely you fight. The sirens grew louder, then stopped right outside the house. 2 officers moved quickly past me, calm but alert, their presence filling the hallway with authority my son-in-law could no longer challenge.
One of them asked him to step back.
He didn't argue this time. He just stared at the floor, hands trembling. The other officer tried the door. When it didn't open, they didn't hesitate. The lock gave way with a sharp crack that echoed through the house. The door swung open. My daughter was on the bed, pale, disoriented, wrapped in a blanket that looked more like a shield than comfort. She turned toward me, eyes glassy, then filled with relief the moment she saw my face. "Mom," she whispered. I rushed to her side, ignoring everything else. The room, the officers, my son-in-law standing frozen in the hallway. I took her hands, warm but shaking, and held them like I could anchor her to this moment. Paramedics followed, speaking gently, checking her pulse, asking careful questions. My granddaughter hovered close, clutching my arm as if she were afraid both of us might disappear. From the hallway, I heard the quiet click of handcuffs. My son-in-law said nothing. And in that still, charged space, I realized something piercingly clear. The truth had arrived, and it could not be hidden again. They separated us almost gently. An officer guided my granddaughter to the living room while paramedics prepared to move my daughter safely. She clung to me for a moment, small fingers digging into my sleeve, then let go with a bravery that broke my heart and steadied it at the same time. In the hallway, my son-in-law sat on the edge of a chair, wrists cuffed, eyes empty. He didn't look at me, not in anger, not in shame, just in something flat and defeated that felt heavier than rage. I followed the stretcher outside, hospital lights washing the night in cold blue. My daughter squeezed my hand once before they lifted her into the ambulance. It wasn't strong, but it was real. My granddaughter climbed in beside me.
She didn't speak.
She didn't need to. Her head rested against my shoulder, like she was rediscovering gravity. As the doors closed, sirens flickered back to life. Through the window, I saw the house recede, the porch light still on, the front door broken open, everything exposed in a way it never had been before. I felt no relief. Not yet. Only a fierce, steady clarity settling in my bones. We had crossed a line that could never be walked back. And from here on, safety, not silence, would decide our lives. The hospital smelled like antiseptic and sleeplessness. We sat in a narrow room that felt too small for everything that had just happened. My daughter rested on the bed, pale but clearer, and four-taped to her arm like a fragile lifeline. My granddaughter curled against my side, her breathing finally slow, finally safe. A social worker came first, calm, careful, precise. Then a detective. Then a nurse who asked if we needed anything and meant it. Paperwork began to replace panic. Structure replaced chaos. My daughter looked at me and whispered, "You believed her." I took her hand. I will always believe her. Outside, dawn crept across the city in soft pink light. Somewhere, life was starting again. Inside this room, so were we. Later, when my granddaughter slept, my daughter and I spoke quietly. No accusations. No excuses. Just truth, slow, painful, and necessary. She asked if I was angry. I shook my head. I'm steady. When we finally left, sunlight filled the parking lot like a promise that didn't feel fragile anymore. My granddaughter walked between us, holding both our hands. I realized then that this story would never be about what we lost. It would be about what we protected, and the way love becomes stronger when it stops pretending.